I went over this for a while, so I know the volume. I want to welcome everyone back to the Learning Clinic on CKLU 96.7 FM. I'm your host, Bob Kirwan, and you're listening to the Learning Clinic Meet the Candidates radio show. With me in the studio this afternoon is John Rodriguez, who is running for the position of Mayor of the City of Greater Sudbury. Welcome, John.
Well, thank you very much, Bob, and good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for listening.
We are we're developing the Learning Clinic Meet the Candidates radio show along the idea that we're going to accumulate a number of shows, a number of video segments. We're videotaping this entire program, and over the course of time between now and the election, we will have an archive of these shows so that anybody who wants to come back, or if they missed this show and they want to access what's been said, then they'll be able to come back and almost be able to go through a course, in this particular case, John Rodriguez 101, about what John is all about, why he's running, what his positions are, what he thinks some of the issues are. And at the end of the day, we should have an informed voter going to the polls. A poll that hopefully this time around, people will have knowledge about what people really do think. And in this case, we have 45 minutes to 60 minutes, and we can pretty much have a very relaxed conversation so that we can explore all of the topics. So I'm gonna say, John, start us off, kind of give us an overview of I guess, why you decided to put your name in again, and some of the things you're bringing to the table, and then we will start exploring some of the major issues and the major things that you feel have to be addressed over the next 4 years. So, who is John Rodriguez 2014?
Well, let me start off by saying, Bob, that I think this is an excellent idea, and it contrasts very starkly with commercial media during an election campaign, where all they're interested in is the soundbite.
Yeah, I know.
Here we can explore ideas.
Yep.
We can explore visions. We can explore concepts that candidates have for council, for mayor, for our city of Greater Sudbury.
I'm looking forward to doing this after the election too.
Yes, and so this is very extremely important, and I applaud you for this program.
Thank you.
Because I like it, I like the concept, I like what you've outlined. Now, why? A little bit about myself that maybe a lot of people may not know. I spent a lot of my life, all my working life, working to improve community through education and through political action. And I spent my time in the classroom, and I felt I enjoyed, and it's my number one profession, and that's teaching. Working with children, working with parents, working with colleagues, working with educators across the province and across the country. I worked for the improvement of the working conditions of teachers. I was the president of the local teachers organization, and then I moved on to be the president of the provincial organization, always working to improve the quality of life, working life of teachers and educators, and ultimately, by extrapolation, parents and children and the community. Then, of course, naturally, it's a leapfrog to go from education of a classroom, education in the community, to education on a macro basis.
There's a lot of similarities, isn't
But a lot of similarities. I mean, we're in the realm of ideas. We're in the realm of thinking outside the box. We're in the realm of improving the community at large, the country,
Right.
the province, the riding. And so I became an active politician and served 18 years in the House of Commons as the Member of Parliament for Nickel Belt. I must say that I believe that my reputation as a representative of citizens was sterling, I will say that, because it was committed to serving the community and putting ideas forward in Parliament and holding governments accountable for the actions that they take. And then when I wasn't doing that, I was back teaching again. And then ultimately, when I was forced to retire, and we still discriminate, and I strongly believe that, that the one discrimination that society can get away with today is discrimination on age.
Yeah.
And I do hear it coming up from my opponents and from other people. Why would I want to be at 77 running for mayor? And
Same reasons as when you were 27 or
that's right.
47.
So age is a number, and one has to examine the thoughts of the person, the energy levels, the ability to do the job. That's what counts.
Yeah.
So I ran, and I was mayor for 4 years, 2006 to 2010. And in that time, we had laid out a program with the cooperation of council, always working with council as a team to devise a strategy, to devise a vision for the city. And in working through that vision, we achieved 42 achievements in those 4 years. Those are matters of fact and of record. And so the record stands as an achievement of a council working together with leadership that understood where it is we had to go. Some people typify that as I was a bus driver.
Right.
I want to think more that I was the conductor of an orchestra, where if everybody were reading from their score, then you have beautiful music heard.
So you combine the strengths
of all the players, and it's a beautiful thing when it all works in synchronization. So then I was defeated in 2010, and the job I never got finished. There are several areas that had not been completed. I think the area of physical infrastructure, the area of recreational infrastructure, cultural infrastructure, extremely important. It's an economic driver. We didn't complete that vision. And of course, the whole question of increasing revenues to the city. Because it's my experience, and it is my opinion, that we cannot keep going to property owners and nailing them with 2.7% increases, 2.6% increases. That is not sustainable.
Right.
So we need to think outside the box to see where we can increase revenues. That's extremely important.
Yeah.
And I believe that there are identifiable sources and potential sources for revenues. So those, I think, are important. And when I went down and got nominated 3 weeks ago, I did outline briefly those positions.
Yeah, and we've got that on our website as well.
Yes. So, where do we go from there? So I want to talk about, the first one I want to talk about is the alternate sources of revenues to the city. It's extremely, extremely important. And none of those who have offered themselves so far have dealt with this issue. And I'm talking about mayoral candidates. I've not talked about alternate sources of revenues.
I think one of the things when we deal with that, you've experienced at a different level of government where the revenue goes, right? A lot of the mining revenue is one of, there are other sources of revenue, but it's not as easy as it sounds to go and get some more revenue from the tax bases, like the tax revenue from the mining. we've been trying for as long as I can remember ever living in here to get more of our share of revenue, but that's not the only source of revenue that you're talking about, is it?
No, well, that's my primary,
That's a big,
my primary argument is that sometimes, you know, Bob, timing is everything.
right,
It's, timing in politics is key. Now, what's become au courant and very popular, and our First Nations brothers and sisters have shown us the way, and they have said to governments, federal and provincial, if you come on our territory to mine our resources, you will share resources with us.
Mhm.
So resource revenue sharing has become the new mantra for this provincial government that just got re-elected. And it's also the mantra for the federal government in Ottawa. So if we were to follow that through to its logical conclusion, then we at the municipal level, who are predominantly a mining community, then we should benefit from the ores that come out from under the ground in this community. And yet we don't. The province has done very well. The federal government has done very well over the last 15, 20 years in increasing their take from the mining industry, but the municipality has not. We've in fact reduced our take from the mining industry in our community, because all the taxes we can put on are the taxes on property, on the buildings. But when the buildings are knocked down and the buildings go underground, we lose the assessment. And yet our roads are used by mining company contractors to move and haul their ores to the smelters and refineries. And we, the taxpayers, every 3 years, religiously, we repair LaSalle Boulevard, Falconbridge Road, and any road that those trucks run on. It's 103 trucks a day, Bob,
oh, I know, it's.
on
it's
an average of 40 tons a truck.
I think 102 of them go by our subdivision.
Well, they do.
valley.
And the Regional Road 15 is not designed
Oh,
and built
crap,
to sustain that kind of traffic.
No, we were
So-
on it, we were on it yesterday, and it's
So-
not.
So Freud would be looking at Sudbury as a microcosm of madness,
Yeah,
that we keep doing the same things over and over and over again, expecting a different result.
yeah,
And it's not happening.
Yeah.
So I was very disappointed, I have to say this, that we just went through a provincial election and no candidate, with the possibility of a minority government, no candidate raised resource revenue sharing.
you're right, I didn't hear one.
Not
word of
one peep,
that.
okay? I'm sorry, but Northern Ontario is our single industry towns,
Yeah,
single resource towns, and in our case, we're mining.
Yeah.
Now, it's also rather hypocritical that we can get, under the Aggregates Act of Ontario, we can get 7 cents a ton for every ton of gravel that's taken off a gravel pit in Sudbury, in Greater Sudbury, we get 7 cents a ton. But we don't get a penny, we get nada, ningun, niente, on a ton of ore taken out of the ground. All of that royalty goes to the province. This is an injustice, Bob,
yeah. And,
okay?
you know,
And voices have to be raised.
They have a huge significance on that.
Yeah, and we did the study, I had the study done. Jose Blanco was the chair of the committee, and it's called a refined argument. And mining municipalities across northeastern Ontario, I presented, made a presentation to all councils, and they unanimously voted to support resource revenue sharing. So, in my experience in politics, you don't just make one effort and let it die.
Yeah.
It's got to be that drop of water dropping every minute, every hour onto the rock.
You can break through that wall, but
You know.
you're not gonna do it the first time you hit it.
That's right. And in light of the fact that northeastern Ontario and northwestern Ontario are predominantly opposition members in the legislature. They're orange.
Mhm.
I expect that they should stand up on their two hind legs and scream.
Yeah, they're kind of,
This is-
they're a group now, aren't they?
Yes, this is not fair.
Yeah.
Okay, you talk about the horse racing industry. I think the resource revenue sharing it's a crying shame that we get not a penny share of that royalty that comes off the ores.
Yeah.
And
Well, I
Yeah.
mean, that would have an effect on virtually everything,
Well,
every aspect of the government.
absolutely,
Municipal
those monies could be used for infrastructure.
Yeah.
And we have a $600 million infrastructure deficit. That's pipes and bridges, and
Yeah.
roads and sidewalks and all the rest of it.
Not going down either.
And it's not. And I think that we have to be more aggressive with respect to getting a share of resource revenues. That's one. The other thing that we can use our share of resource revenues, and even if we don't get that in the first or second or third year, we have to address the issue of industrial parks.
Right.
We have to infrastructure the industrial parks. We've identified 5 sites, and we have to really put in the infrastructure. And now's the time to do it. I have to agree with David Dodge. This is the time when, if you haven't got the money, you borrow it, and you do the infrastructural work that you have to do, because that's investing in the long term.
Mhm.
Because the economy is going to come around again.
Yeah.
And when it comes around, you have to be there.
Gotta be ready for it.
You don't start doing the infrastructure work when the economy is booming and industry is looking for opportunities. So,
It's kind of like the way advertising works, right? The time to advertise is when your revenues are down. You don't wait until the revenues are up in order to start advertising again, or your revenues may never get up. So I like the idea, like, we
Yeah.
put the infrastructure in now, and you're ready for the boom, because it is gonna come back.
absolutely. I mean, growth rate now is, I don't know, it's a sluggish 1.7%. It's going to come back. I mean, the American economy comes back, and the European economy comes back, China's economy comes back, and India's economy comes back, and there will be a demand. And so we have to be ready.
Learn from history.
Absolutely. And the other area that I think is crucial is we're 160,000 people. We're spread out on the largest geographic base in the province. We're the largest geographic city in Ontario, and the second largest in Canada, and the 4th largest in North America. And we can use, and we have an official plan of the city, and we can use infill. Some people call it density. People get nervous about the word, but I would call it infilling. And so you look to encourage developers in making investments in housing. Okay, so I think you don't discourage developers, and so we need to work out the kinks at City Hall that are hindrances to developers, and that's bureaucracy and red tape. And we started that when I was mayor, and we didn't get it completed. We used to meet once every 2 months or so with developers, always getting ideas from them how we can streamline the operation at City Hall. One-stop shopping, for example, and we implemented that. And there are other, sometimes bureaucracies, and I've known that, and you've known it as working as a leader of teachers, and I've known it as an MP and leader of teachers, that bureaucracies dig their ruts. Mm-hmm. And they're comfortable in the rut, and they can't think outside the rut. So what we as leaders have to do is to encourage them to think outside the box, fill in the ruts, and encourage them to make decisions, even if they make a mistake. If you're not making mistakes, you're not making decisions. That was my message to all levels of management at City Hall. for heaven's sakes, make a decision. I won't hang you out to dry, and as long as you don't give away the taxpayers' money.
You can always revisit.
And that's right, and if it didn't work, it didn't work, we change it.
Yeah.
But for heaven's sakes, think outside the box.
Yeah.
So we have to eliminate and we have to work out those barriers to development in the city. And we have to work with our citizens for them to understand that it's not always not in my backyard.
Yeah. And I think you're right, and your background and a number of people on council, their background in education, I really do think it comes down to making sure that people understand what you're trying to teach them. And we have, we have an opportunity. Good break. We have an opportunity now to try and inform the public so they understand more about why the decisions are being made, instead of always trying to defend the decisions. Let's make sure that people understand what the thinking is, and that's nothing more than teaching.
But it also requires, and I'm going to say this frankly, Bob, it requires courage on the part of those who lead.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep.
There are those who sit on the council, and I'm not pointing any fingers here, but I'm just speaking in general.
Mhm.
That they know that a developer who gets turned down by a council will end up going to the OMB.
Right.
And they know that there is no emotional consideration by the OMB. If the developer meets all the requirements of the planning department of the city, they will approve
Right.
the development. So we're playing games here, because we don't want to be, we want the OMB to overrule us. So we're with you, okay? And it's Big Brother down at Queen's Park that reversed the decision.
Right.
And to me, I would say to our listeners, that's not courage,
No.
okay? And that's not being straight with the citizens. People have to know where you're coming from.
Yeah. Takes a lot of confidence for a leader, but if you're gonna be sitting at city council, you have to have that. You can't, I understand exactly what you mean, like, you have to make those tough decisions.
That's right, and you have to become informed. So you've got your staff to inform you, you've got your citizens to inform you, and you have to listen.
Mhm.
And if they've got a legitimate reason, and if there's a legitimate reason why development can't go, then you would vote against it.
Yeah.
But if there is no legitimate reason,
Yeah.
and it meets all the requirements of your protocols,
Yeah.
then there's no.
Not in your backyard isn't one of
It's-
the reasons, is it, that
No,
nobody
it's,
looks at?
that becomes, it seems to me that that's an emotional response.
And OMB wouldn't look at
And, so those are areas that I think where potentially we can increase revenues. And the industrial park investment is not only in industry coming to the community, but it's also the jobs that are created. And it doesn't need to be a big industry employing 100 people or 200 people. 5, 10, and you get several of these. We have right now some 400 small and medium-sized businesses that supply the mining industry with goods and services. They employ 13,000 people.
that. I've always said that if you can attract 10 people who want to live in Sudbury during your retirement, and those 10 people bring up 10 pensions and 10 bank accounts, and they buy 10 houses, that's a small industry. That's
Yeah.
a small business. That's like having 10 employees making an income.
Absolutely.
So there's nothing wrong with making us an attractive place for people in their retirement years.
And if we have to make those investments, those strategic investments, we make them.
Yeah.
And then, of course, that now we extrapolate into the infrastructure with respect to recreation and culture, because as your community, and also we make strategic investments, and we were doing this when I was mayor, looking for strategic investments in meds and eds, medical research, medical services, and education services. Making those investments in meds and eds, I think those are crucial and vital to increasing the level of the creative class in our community.
Yeah, but I used to think that meds and eds were kind of serving the two distinct demographics, that, you know, obviously the seniors are higher priority in medicine and and healthcare, and the younger people more higher priority in education, until I became a grandparent. And all of a sudden I found out that education took on as big a priority, if not more, than when I was a parent. I am more involved and more attentive to the education of my grandparents and my grandchildren than I happened to be even as a teacher with my own children, because I was too busy raising them and going to hockey games and doing all the things that parents do. Now as a grandparent, I'm very cognizant of the importance of education, as well as the importance of healthcare for the younger generation. So it almost, so to me, in my particular case, I've evolved from thinking, oh, healthcare, that's something that the older people think about, and education, that's something that the younger people think about too. Oh my goodness, I think as you get older, both of those priorities suddenly rise, and it's almost like it's a reverse.
You see the synergies.
Yeah,
And
it's there.
yeah, I was, it was interesting you mentioned that, but I was invited by one of my former students at St. David's to attend his graduation at Cambridge. Turns out I had two others graduating as well. These are kids I taught in grade 8 and grade 7, and I'm sitting, and they had graduation that ran 3 or 4 days, morning and afternoon, hundreds of young people. And I'm sitting there, I'm watching the young people go up and get their certificates and diplomas, and I saw, you know, they committed for 3 or 2 years or a year, and they're getting this certificate. And I'm sitting and I'm thinking, will you be able to get a job in your field here in Sudbury, whatever that field was? Or will you be able to even get a job here, not even in your field? Or will you be able to get a job in any part of Canada? What are the, and then I went from that to the next question is, but I want to be, and I am a leader of the community. What can I do as mayor? What can I do as mayor? If I'm mayor, when I'm mayor, what can I do to increase the opportunities for as many of these young people to actually get a job and participate in building the city of Greater Sudbury?
And you know, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head there a little bit as to why some people put their name in to run for city council or for mayor. Because at the end of the day, I mean, you're asking for 4 years of pretty constant scrutiny and work, and I mean, it's not the easiest job in the world, and you're certainly not gonna get rich on the job. But I've reflected on my own reason, and I basically told people I don't think I'm running against anybody. I feel that after living in my community for so long and knowing what I know and all the experiences, that I have to ask that question, what can I do now to continue to make the valley grow? And when I say the valley grow, I say my responsibility is the valley, because I believe the city of Greater Sudbury is a community of communities. And my responsibility would be to that segment, while knowing that nothing that is done to improve the valley should take away from any of the other segments. And it should all be moving toward the growth of the city. So it comes a time in your life when you have to say, okay, what can I do? I think I can do something. I can't sit back. I have to come forward.
Well, that is the excellent motivation for offering oneself as a candidate. I can't think of a better motivation. The motivation that says, for example, and I don't know of anyone who says it, but I want to get rid of the people who are there because they've not done anything for me or anything for my community, or they can't get along, or it's them versus the mayor, or the mayor versus them. I think that's the wrong motivation
Right.
for running for office. The one you just outlined is what I would think harbors a great potential for candidates who get elected with that motivation.
Yeah.
To work together as a team, to build not only Valleys, but to build the city of Greater Sudbury.
Yeah. And I think I've got as much insight into the needs of the younger generation and the older generation. I don't have to be 30 to come up with youthful ideas.
Yes.
Youthful ideas are just different ideas, and ideas that are thinking outside the box. And sometimes you have to have been in a few boxes to be able to think outside the box.
Oh, absolutely.
I've been inside a few boxes.
Yes, but we've all
Yeah.
had that experience, and some of us are very comfortable living inside the box
Mhm.
because they take no chances,
Yeah.
and so you can. What did somebody say? Pick the rut you want and work it because you'll be in it till you collect your pension.
Yeah.
And I just don't think that we need
No.
that kind of leadership.
I know.
And the other one is, of course, experience. I mean, you mentioned that. Experience is extremely important. If you've never offered yourself in the community, you've never done anything in the community, you never volunteered in the community, you never experienced working as part of a team in a community group, and suddenly out of the woodwork you come and say, it's time for a change.
Yeah.
The change that, a real change that matters. What are you talking about, you know?
I know.
So that's, to me, those are important aspects. On the meds and eds, when I was mayor, we, the council, identified a geriatric center. We recognized that the fastest growing demographic in terms of age was our seniors. And so we needed to, and we were having the practical experience of our ambulances waiting at the emergency to unload ALC patients.
I have witnessed that within the last month.
Okay,
Couldn't
so,
believe what I saw.
so the idea is, how do you tackle that problem? What can we do as a city? Healthcare is not a municipal responsibility. We could say that, right? We'd say, I'm not gonna do anything, I see no evil, I hear no evil, I speak no evil. Instead, we said, what can we do? So we can make a strategic investment in a geriatric center. And so we went out and hired Dr. Clark, and the rest is history. And so the geriatric center is at Pioneer Manor, and it's now the geriatric center for all of northeastern Ontario. And the whole idea of that concept is to try and keep older folk in their apartment, in their homes, longer.
Right.
So that was one. The other one was, of course, the School of Architecture. And I can't tell you how much we were committed to that as a council. We unanimously voted to make a $10 million investment in a School of Architecture in downtown Sudbury. Now, education is not a municipal responsibility constitutionally, it's a provincial responsibility. Yet we saw the opportunity to make a strategic investment, which we did.
Yeah.
And I think meds and eds are, and I noticed for a while I was concerned that the present council was not going to make the investment in Amherst, which is the research arm of our health center.
Okay.
And I wrote a letter to the others, saying this is a no-brainer here. This is the kind of investments we should be making, a $2 million investment in America. So I do believe that we have to. Now, at one time, when I first came into Sudbury in 1962, INCO, and I was living in Coniston, and I was principal of the St. Paul's in Coniston, and INCO had 23,000 hourly rated employees, 23,000. Today, I think if they've got 2,300,
Yeah.
would be the maximum.
I think they've
So-
got fewer people employed now than they hired during the summer,
Yeah,
for
so,
summer relief.
so you've got, the university probably has more employees, the hospital, the healthcare system has more employees, and the educational system has more employees than the mining companies.
Yep.
So that whole demographic has changed, that work demographic has changed. And so, those strategic investments are attracting a different class of people into the community. And so it's important for us to make the investments in performing arts centers, for example. Okay, that has nothing to do with me. It wasn't, and I resented this, but I never said anything. I kept quiet about it, Bob. It wasn't my heritage project. This is what the community needed. And the community needs 160,000 people. And we don't have a center for the performing arts. Okay, I mean,
No, I hear you.
so the concept is to make sure that you provided the infrastructure as you're attracting people and you're educating young people. Okay, there are opportunities for them to practice their culture. And there should be settings for that. So these are extremely important infrastructures that need to be. Cultural infrastructure is an economic driver. It drives the economy of the community. Similarly, recreational infrastructure drives the economy of the community. So we have to take a look at our recreation facilities. What is the state of our soccer fields? It's appropriate I'm mentioning this now during FIFA in Brazil, the best team,
Yeah.
the team that will win the World Cup.
You're
Right?
making a prediction, are you? Yeah.
Yeah, what are you saying?
No, I'm
You don't
still-
agree with me?
I'm still waiting for the Toronto Maple Leafs to win the Stanley Cup, so I'm not a good one to talk about.
Well, you're a dreamer.
Yes, I'm a dreamer. Maybe that's right. Good point.
But what is the state of our arenas? We have to make some important decisions. What decision do we make about a new arena? How does that fit into the complement of arenas we have in the core of the city?
And we are seeing a movement because they've done a recent study that with the recreation and leisure plan that is showing that, and it's showing very clearly that there is a shift towards family activities, outdoor activities such as cycling and walking and swimming and playgrounds, that a lot of the generation today wants to get involved in participation activities as
Sure.
opposed to spectator activities. And as a council, then you're sitting there saying, we have to make sure that we're creating the infrastructure that people are moving toward, and at the same time make sure we cannot avoid our responsibilities to that segment that wants to participate on these facilities. Well, I'm thrilled that we now have a hockey team at Laurentian University. It was awful not to have a hockey team at our university in Northern Ontario. So
Yeah.
it's important, but we can't avoid this new move that the society seems to be going towards, families trying to spend as much time as they can together because they're separate so much.
Well, that brings us to the question of the other facility we wanted to build, which was a multi-use recreation facility, as you recall.
Yeah.
Now, again, I'm not gonna get into the details of the political machinations that went into destroying those two concepts. But we hadn't even presented the business plan, and we weren't expecting, as a council, we weren't expecting the taxpayers to pick up the capital cost of all of those buildings.
No.
We hadn't even started to approach, though, I had in mind to approach the private sector to see if we can do partnerships in the capital expenditures for those two buildings, for those two facilities. And we never got around to it, because I do believe that politics played a part in that whole process. And I won't get into that.
No.
But we moved on.
Yeah.
We moved on, and moving on, we put the second pad on Countryside. After 16 years, we finally put the second pad on Countryside. And, I mean, economics show that having no community builds a single pad arena anymore.
No.
It's two or more pads.
Revenue producer.
And also economics operating the building, right, the facility. So that seems to me the way to go in terms of looking at the inventory of facilities. I do remember, I vividly remember, I don't know if you were in Valley East at the time, but I was teaching at Immaculate Conception in Balcanon. And City Council, Valley East Council, was wanting to build the rec center, which is now the Howard Armstrong Center.
I was there.
And lo and behold, this group came out of the woodwork demanding that we not spend the money, because it would become a white elephant and the taxpayers would end up with a very costly facility to maintain. Well, thank heavens, the council of the day, led by Tiger Armstrong, and I give him full credit, and he stood his ground and said, no, we're gonna build it. And he was the only one who lost his seat.
He was the only
Is
one.
this a significant?
Yeah, we've already had that discussion at a public meeting at the Howard Armstrong Recreation Center.
And today, the Howard Armstrong Recreation Center is a jewel in Valley East.
Yeah, it is, and it's doing what it was set out to do.
And serving seniors.
It's serving seniors, and
Remember? I mean, I remember that.
There was a split in the community. There was a split in neighborhoods. There
Well,
was a split in families.
yeah.
It was a tough battle.
And you had courageous councillors and the leader,
Made the
Howie,
decision.
and he stood his ground. Now, and I wasn't here at the time, but go back in history to 1951, when Maxie Silverman was mayor and wanted to build the arena that we've got downtown. And there were picketers picketing against building the arena. So if you understand the course of history, you're doomed to repeat it if you don't know your history.
Yeah, you really have to get to know the silent majority, don't you?
Well, but you need leaders with backbones, not wishbones.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you need councillors and you need leaders who are prepared to see the vision.
Yeah.
And when you plan together, which is what we did as a council when I was mayor, we planned together. And once you commit to this overall vision of where you want the city to go, then as issues come up, you always view them in light of the vision.
I like the way you put that, and I think what we can do is take a quick break and come back and talk about that whole idea of planning together and forming this vision together, and not following the vision of a person who happens to get elected as mayor. That it has to be there are 13 people around that table, and they're all basically mayors of their own little community, and that whole concept of having to be able to plan that vision together and then work toward together. I think that's a critical challenge that any mayor is going to be faced with in the future. And I think when we come back, we can start taking a look at that. You know, how do you build that, and then wrap up in the next 15, 20, 30 minutes, some of the major things you wanna talk about now, so that we'll have a good, solid foundation for moving forward, so.
Good.
But I think that this whole idea of we're gonna do it together. I'm not gonna tell you what you have to do to follow me, but we're gonna plan together. I
That's the
think
it's key element of leadership,
It's true.
you know?
But I think it's something that has to be
Good,
addressed.
let's take a pee.
We're gonna take a break.
Okay.
So we're back again, John. Again, we're on the Learning Clinic, CKLU 96.7 FM or CKLU.ca, listening to the show streamed live, and then tomorrow on Tuesday, we'll have the show on video. When we took our quick little break, I was looking at this whole concept of developing a vision and moving forward, and I like the way you put it. We have to plan together this vision, that it's not Mayor John Rodriguez's vision. It has to be a community vision, kind of formulated by the representatives who have been chosen by the people to come together as a group of 13. And I guess when we take a look at this vision and how you see us planning for this vision, what is your role as a catalyst, as a leader, to make sure we go where we want to go?
That's a good question, an important question. I think it starts with the leader, the person who wants to be the leader of the group, the mayor, has got to have a vision first about where we want to go. Now, each of the councillors will have a vision. Each person who's running, you have a vision of where you see our community going. And then with the leadership skills is for the mayor to bring the council together, and that's what we did. I think 3 weeks after we were elected, we were down on Kukagami Lake for a weekend. And everybody lived inside the lodge, and we spent the weekend, Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday, and developed where we intersected and interfaced in terms of the vision that we came out of Kukagami Lake with that weekend.
Okay.
So, sure, the mayor has a vision, but it's not necessarily his vision that trumps everybody else's vision.
Yeah, I guess if it's contrary to what a lot of other people want,
give and take.
you're gonna have a lot of conflict.
Yeah, but you have to give and take.
Right.
And it's not my way or the highway.
Right.
But, I mean, everybody around it gets the chance to express and to share, and in that sharing comes the intersections of where we can move and develop that vision for the council.
The common
Yes,
vision.
yeah, and then of course you have, we had very capable animators who led the group, led us over that weekend to help us formulate and develop that overall vision for 4 years. And then, of course, after 2 years, we reviewed it, and we did that at the center in Azilda.
That coming together at the beginning really gives you a chance to demonstrate to the group that the group is open to all ideas, and nobody has to fear
That's right.
that any of their ideas are ridiculous, that you've got to have that comfort level of being able to express yourself. And as a teacher, you would know that one of the biggest things that you have to do in a classroom is make sure that everybody understands that they're free to express their opinions freely, and that you're going to make sure that they can do that without fear of ridicule.
Yeah, and then you combine that, Bob, with the personality of the leader. If the personality of the leader is consensual, is open, there are times when you do have to take a stand, and you know that. You have an open door policy, and I mean an open door policy, which means that you're looking always for relationships and communication with the counselors.
Yeah.
So when I look out my door and I see down the hall a counselor going into their office area, you go down and invite them, come on in. If they know they can come into your office at any time to discuss any issue, it's extremely important.
Oh, yes.
And so you don't hide in your office and close the door.
Yeah.
And the same with citizens. Any citizen who wants to see the mayor has got to be able to see the mayor.
Yeah.
I don't care. I mean, that's the way it is.
Yeah, that's your priority.
And it seems to me that when you have that kind of leadership, it invites the kind of planning and development and vision development that I think is important for the 4 years that you're going to be in office.
Absolutely.
And then the other thing is with these interactions, well, you know, as an educator, as an MP, I was always interested in people, and listening to them and responding to their needs is extremely important.
Mm-hmm.
As teachers, the children are the most important element in the system.
Yeah.
Then the parents, then the teachers, and the school board.
Mm-hmm. The school board, right.
Right down at the bottom.
Right at the bottom.
But children are first. That's why we're there.
Yeah.
And so to listen to children, and to work with them is extremely important. So in this particular instance, getting to know your counselors, and I'm talking informally, to know what motivates them,
Yeah.
what are their ambitions, what are their dreams, what are their hopes, what are their aspirations, what's their vision for the city.
Yeah.
That's extremely important.
Oh, absolutely. It's that.
And then supporting them, affirming what they do in their wards,
Yeah.
visiting everything that they do. I mean, it doesn't matter if they're opening or some sort of a fair in Beaver Lake or wherever, you go there
Yeah. Yeah.
with them.
Because in a way, you really do have a council of 13 mayors.
Yeah, and you're in a team. You're part of a team.
Yeah.
And if you lose a vote, you don't harp upon it all the time,
No.
and you move forward.
Yeah.
We lost a vote on the two projects, the multi-use recreation and the performing arts center, but we move forward.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, you have to. And I think that's one of the things I've been hearing constantly from the counselors that have come into this show. It's that they want to get to a point of being able to say, we're going to have a very vigorous debate on an issue, vote on it, and it's done.
Yeah.
And then go on, move on. At least if everybody feels that they can put everything on the table and everybody's got all the information they need and they make a decision, good, the decision was made. And you can't feel bad about not getting your way.
And I think too, Bob, I think in looking back over my 4 years at the municipal level as mayor, I would say that if I want to change things, I think the messaging, it's one thing to do a great project. For example, we did the investment in the School of Architecture downtown. We wanted it downtown, and the geriatric. But we lacked, or we didn't have the appropriate way of communicating those positive, cooperative things that we did together to the citizens at large. Because if we had done that people today, citizens today, would be able to make the contrast between what happened from 2006 to 2010 to what happened from 2010 to 2014. And they assumed that these same councils, and there were mostly 9 of the 12 are from the previous council. What happened to them suddenly? Did they become nattering nabobs of negativism overnight?
Yeah.
What happened? What was different?
Yeah.
And what was different was the leadership.
Yep.
So you don't take those 9 consensual people who were willing to work as a team and suddenly make them sort of, they were in opposition to the leader of the council.
Can't discard them now.
So, I think one of the things we need to improve is how we get the message out to citizens
Right.
of what's happening.
And we got a good example of that with the branding publicity recently that was
Perfect
totally,
example.
totally misconstrued.
Perfect example. And now the city has a communications department and a head of communications, but they don't communicate the council's work. They communicate whatever the city is doing. We're turning off the power
Right,
from
that's
this,
right.
we're turning off the water from this.
Yeah.
It doesn't deliver the message
No.
to citizens in a coordinated way of what I would call the important decisions that council makes as a whole.
Yeah. The security measures was another.
Well, that was another disaster.
Yeah,
The whole handling of the Auditor General was a disaster. The handling of the Ombudsman was a disaster.
A lot of it is, like you say, communication.
Absolutely, and what happened was the council has no communications person
No.
who has the skills and the ability to
And you basically,
present the message
you're
of
basically a sitting duck.
Yes,
That happens.
yeah,
There's
yeah,
13
you're depending on the
targets.
media,
Yeah, there's 13
who's
targets.
got their own axe to grind,
Yeah.
and of course, it's always an axe to grind from a negative perspective.
Oh, it's like a piranha when they get hold of something.
Yes.
I don't have to tell you about that.
Yeah, so that whole idea, you're right about coming together, it's always a cooperative effort. And keep in mind, the mayor only has 1 vote on the council.
That's right.
And people say that glibly, but, and it is true that the mayor only has 1 council, but the mayor has to depend on leadership skills, his or her leadership skills, to maximize the effect of that 1 vote. Okay, and that has to do with personality. I mean, this whole idea of, well, if they wanna knock heads, I can knock heads with them. And you're starting off with that, or my city is broken. Well, the city is not broken, and you're not going there to knock heads with anybody.
There's nothing wrong with vigorous debate.
Yeah, I mean, debate, informed debate, and the staff does a great job in providing the background material to councillors. And it's, the onus is on the
We just
councillor
have
to
to read it.
also
We just
read
have
it
to read it.
and prepare themselves.
Yeah.
Look at other sources, you know?
And I think that's critical, is this whole dedication to being prepared
Yeah.
for the discussion. And that's something that each councillor has to address personally.
When I think about, when I think about it now, when I think back to 2006, and I think you were in the crucible of it, in Valley East.
Yes, I was running.
And people all wanted de-amalgamation.
Yep.
That was the cry.
There was.
And I went to meetings where the de-amalgamators were, like, as you say, piranhas in the tank, and wanting me to come out in favor of putting a question on the ballot saying whether we want to stay in the city of Greater Sudbury or not. Well, we came through that. And Floyd, with his report, which was the Community of Communities concept, and his 100-odd recommendations, we implemented all of those and moved to this. I think in 2010 I didn't hear anybody screaming at me saying we want to de-amalgamate. Now there are issues still there, you know, concepts or people who do feel that they're ignored, and that everything goes into the core of the city.
We also felt that back when we had regional government though.
Yes.
It was always that concept, but I can remember when we had regional government, and Mayor John Robert and Jim Griffin would go and sit at the regional table. Everybody around the table knew that those two people were gonna be talking about the valley. They knew clearly, they represent that community, and you had the Rayside represent, they were representing that. So it wasn't that it was a bad system. You had Tom Davies, who did a good job of bringing this group together, and they made decisions. And you went back and you continued to develop your valley, and we became a city for a year. And so I think what Floyd probably did was he made a lot of recommendations that allowed you to maintain the spirit of the community of communities without having to go through a de-amalgamation. Because I think Floyd probably recognized, and I think most people recognize now, you can't put the egg back in the shell. It's you can say it all you want, but you've broken the egg, it's scrambled, you cannot put it back.
And in fact, if you think of the Greater Sudbury as a sort of microcosm of the macrocosm being Canada as a country, I remember during the referendums, the Quebec referendums, I remember the line, you know, you can be a great Quebecer, but you can also be a great Canadian within Canada.
Yeah.
And so I always used to parrot that line back.
Yeah.
You can be a great Rayside Balfordian, you can be a great Valley Easter, and at the same time, you can be a great Greater Sudburian.
Exactly.
So, but that's how I think our council is structured. I expect the councillors from Ward 5 and the councillor from Ward 6 and the councillor from Ward 9 speak up for their wards.
Yeah.
But also, they're committed to the overall vision of an improved city, a dynamic city, a city that is moving forward.
Yeah. And I think that's a good analogy, because you've got those larger goals that encompass the entire city of Greater Sudbury, and then you've got the smaller goals that are major to their individual wards.
Yes.
But they are part of the bigger picture. And to me, it doesn't mean you have to give up one to get the other. So they're both important.
Yes, they're not mutually exclusive. Absolutely.
And when you get into the federal level, and that's where you were, I mean, just face it, I mean, it was almost like a very large city of Greater Sudbury Council. You have one leader, which was the federal government, and you've got 12 provinces and territories.
Yeah, and we had Western Canada, Alberta particularly, who said Eastern Canada is beating up on Alberta and wanting Alberta's oil resources, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I went in there, and Petro-Canada was the issue.
Yeah.
And we did push the minority Liberal government to establish Petro-Canada.
So we're really not reinventing the wheel. I mean, the model has been there, and it's a model that has run the course of history in various different settings, and it's just a matter of the personalities.
And during this past election in 2010, I didn't hear, I mean, there was not the hysteria that we heard back in 2006 of demanding the amalgamation.
No, I think they've realized that the spirit of a community of communities is important, and it can be done.
Yeah.
Because I used to bring out the fact that if you really wanted the amalgamation, 7 out of the 13 people sitting around council live in the outlying areas. So if those 7 ever got together and said, we're gonna vote for the outlying area, they could have done it.
Yeah, and you know, I found that the willingness to see the bigger picture, you know, was always present in the council that I led.
If Walden is damaged or compromised, I think the people in the valley have to feel it.
That's right.
It's going to, if we hurt any segment of any section of our city, it's going to bring down the whole. And that's the way I look at it. If we can improve any one little part of the city of Greater Sudbury, we've improved the city of Greater Sudbury.
That's right.
Small, but we have. So in the last little while, are there any other specific major issues? Because I know you're going to be bombarded with questions about, well, tell me exactly what you're going to do with this. And
But
when I get those questions, you know what? I can't put myself into a pigeonhole. As a leader, I've got to go in and say, I know basically what I'm thinking, but I have to find out more information, I have to find out what my colleagues feel. So I think for us to say, you have to come up with a definite platform so we know exactly where you stand on this and exactly where you stand on this, and I think it becomes difficult to go in there, because then you're always gonna be told, well, this is what you said before the election.
Oh,
So
sure. I mean, election time is stock-taking time, and it's the time to hold your incumbent councillor or mayor to account. What have you achieved?
Yeah.
What, where were we, where are we
Yeah.
now?
Yeah.
So what,
And
how
did
is it you
perform?
spent my tax dollars, and what have you done with my tax dollars,
And how did
okay?
you perform? Did
And how
you
you
return
perform.
your call when I called you? Did
Yeah,
you?
those sorts of things, very important, you
Yeah.
know, and I wanted to see you, and I went up there 5 times, and you wouldn't see me.
Yeah.
You told the people out there in the office to tell you that you were busy or something.
Yeah, and I told 50 people that I know that that's how you treated me.
Yeah, so those are important things. I think what we've discussed today, Bob, is we have gone the gamut of what I would call my platform, as I see it. And we even got into the specificity in some instances, for example, on alternate sources of revenues.
Mhm.
I would have to say that I really view with suspicion anybody who comes along and says, well, when I get there as mayor, I wanna cut the number of people working for the city, and I wanna cut this expense, and I wanna cut this program. Well, everything that's been done, and by the way, it was during my time, and I'd run on it, was to establish the position of Auditor General of the city. And the purpose of that was to see what efficiencies we could achieve with an Auditor General,
Right.
and or what savings we could achieve with an Auditor General. So, of course, I'm in favor of making the position of Auditor General permanent. The
Mhm.
individual occupying the position would be a contract position.
Right.
So, I would have to say, from my experience at City Hall, in general, it's efficiently run, considering the size of the city.
Mhm.
I mean, this is a huge municipality.
Oh, yes.
And I would have to say that, in general, it's efficiently run, and it responds to the needs of the citizens in a timely and effective fashion, as a general rule,
Yes.
principle. Doesn't mean it's perfect,
No.
and there are things that you need to always check and improve on, okay? Like overseeing contracts. If you have a contract with somebody to provide something, how's the oversight of the contract? Are we checking the services we're getting for the money we're paying, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So those things, yes, you always look for those efficiencies, and that's administrative.
Yeah.
So you can hold your general managers to account.
And as a mayor, you have a closer relationship with that operational side. So
Absolutely.
you're full-time, you're there, you're like, and so councilors have a kind of like an eye in the sky
Mhm.
person. on
Yeah,
that.
and the relationship between the CAO and the mayor has to be a very close one. I mean, it has to be close in terms of communications. It's not once every 6 months you sit down with the CAO, or once a year, but weekly. And there should be an agenda of issues that you need to raise with the CAO, and he may want to raise with you.
Yeah.
So,
It's like a principal can't get to know his staff by only going in and doing a formal evaluation once every 2 years.
exactly,
You've gotta be there.
exactly, and so that relationship, when you get to an elected council, elected mayor, and you've got your administrator, your head of administration, don't forget, he does the day-to-day operation of the city.
Yeah.
Okay, the mayor doesn't come along, and the mayor doesn't come along and say to a manager, that guy over here was, you had 6 guys filling a pothole on Demerara, and I want you to correct that. That's not the function of the mayor,
No.
okay?
No, you go crazy
Yeah.
if you tried to do all that.
So, if the mayor observes that, the mayor raises that with the appropriate leader, and that's the CAO, and says, listen, I noticed this, and I expect you will deal with that.
Or explain
And,
why.
and report back to me, and you put it on the next week's agenda, okay? Those sorts of things, or you get complaints, phone calls, people telling you what, okay, the bylaw officer was rude to me and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So I don't go call in the bylaw officer and berate him. My role is, the CAO is the administrator of the day-to-day operations of the city.
It's his responsibility.
And that's his responsibility, and that's what he's paid for.
Yeah.
And then he has to report back to me on what I raised with him.
Yeah.
So that's extremely important,
No, it's great. It's,
you know? A lot of times, too, is the mayor is a problem solver. The mayor, you know, helps citizens to solve problems involving bureaucratic red tape,
right.
okay? And I see that a lot. I saw that a lot when I was mayor, and I responded appropriately. Bring in the head of engineering or the head of drainage. Why do you want him to put this berm here and a berm there? And why do you want him to put a fire hydrant right on his property? And he's got one down the road. That sort of thing. And so you try and resolve those things, and you move things forward.
Yeah. So
You know?
it's a matter of education.
I remember getting when the library board needed some land from a landowner adjacent to the former library on the south end. And the owner of the property didn't want to sell to the library board. And so the library board came to the mayor and said, can you intervene on our behalf? Yes, call in the homeowner, the landowner, and we had a great discussion. And we're able to resolve that and get the land so that we can build the library. Now that's using the personal cachet of the mayor
And it comes
as a
from-
problem solver.
And it comes from personal experience. And
Yeah, and it comes from knowing how to deal with people, and it's not headbutting.
No, there's gotta be that sincerity, because people can tell. People can tell when you're not sincere, and when you're just trying to pull the wool over their eyes. And so that whole being a conciliator is, it's an important part. Like you said.
Absolutely.
No, you're not coming in there with a stick and
And,
beat anybody.
and yeah, but if you don't wanna cooperate, I can bang heads too.
Yeah,
I mean, sorry, that's not how it works. This is not a Rob Ford thing.
no.
You know, and that's important.
Yeah.
And what's important too is, since the mayor is the mayor for all the city, the mayor makes sure that he is seen at all functions where citizens invite the mayor and feel that the mayor's presence raises the function.
Yeah.
And I think that's extremely important.
That's an important part, yeah.
That's the social aspect of.
Self-image of your community, like the community self-image is,
Yeah, and you know, these, I remember always when we did those state of the city address to the Chamber of Commerce, and we always laid out where we've been and what still has to be done. And we affirm people in these things, and raise the level of enthusiasm for issues.
Yeah.
That's important.
very. So moving forward, I guess we're just, like we're at the end of, in the middle of June. we're hitting summer. And I guess then we're probably gonna end up looking at August, September, October being probably the busiest time of the municipal election, so.
Yes, I would say towards the end of August, end of August and then through September. It's interesting that, the period for a municipal election runs from January the 1st till October 26th, which is 10 months.
Yeah.
The province and the feds don't treat themselves like that.
It's almost as if the province and the feds don't wanna give candidates too much time to say the wrong thing.
Well, it's also you pandering to that hackneyed constitutional truism that the municipalities are the children of the province.
Yeah.
And so since we're the children of the province, it reflects that we're not very important.
Yeah, like it's.
Okay, we're only taxable units.
Yeah.
Okay? So if you really thought that the quality of leadership in councils across the province, across your province, then one, you would do everything to enhance the status of the municipality, right? So you'd have things like, for example, defined periods, not long, lengthy periods, and then expect candidates who may not have a lot of money to maintain a campaign over a long period of time, and not allow them to the opportunity for donors to their campaigns to get tax receipts like they do for feds and province, right?
Yeah. It reflects on the importance of municipal government.
That's right.
The other two levels shut down during their campaign, whereas even during an election campaign, the municipality, the city's council still has to function.
Yeah.
School boards still have to function.
Well,
And
yeah.
while you're campaigning, you have to continue to perform your duties as a
Yes.
councillor and as a school board trustee, and it's kind of ironic in that respect. That, I mean, the EQAO results could not even be released during the provincial campaign because they had to wait for the election before they could officially have the authority to release them. It is like, it's, but no, it's really interesting. I'm hoping, like I say, that, during the course of this election, I really hope that most of the candidates for mayor can come in for, 3 or 4 sessions so that we have a nice archive and build up, and each time you come in, you can basically say, okay, what are some of the things that I should focus on this time so that we're building? And at the end of the day, it'd be like a large virtual meet the candidates event where you're not stuck to 30-second answers and,
Yeah, I think this is the benefit of your approach with this program. And so it's not focused on the fast, snappy line,
no,
right?
no, this was not prepared. You don't have notes, I don't have notes.
Yeah.
This is sincere, so it's not a memorized. So I'm looking forward, like I said, you're, obviously it's not hard to find your platform. I imagine you have or are gonna have a website already.
I have a website, my own personal website, and I
Okay.
posted what I presented when I was nominated
Right.
3 weeks ago, and we posted that,
Yeah.
in a form that people can quickly read.
So
It's
it's all
not
there.
lengthy.
No, it's all there.
And then things like this, I mean, I know the platform, I know the issues, I know where we have to go. I mean, as a city, I have that in my genes, it's
Yeah.
genetic.
Yeah.
It's, and I know who I am, and I know how I work with people. That's important.
Yeah, and now it's a matter for the people to
So I'm hoping.
make an informed vote.
Well, and this program, for example, you would never get this on commercial radio. They're not interested in details.
And I do know there's a lot of people that will wanna listen to this. They will wanna go back and they'll be able to go through the different sections. And this is real time.
Yeah.
This isn't edited.
Do you offer opportunity for people to feedback to you?
I'm looking hopefully at sometime in September, October to be able to use a call-in type
Mhm.
situation. I don't want the call-in to become a debate because the concept of this is more informative and educational as opposed to confrontational. Having two people from the same ward here at the same time, it should be congenial, but it can get more into a debate, and we decided we didn't really wanna go that route. So, we will see what time does.
Mm-hmm.
But for now, I really wanna thank you for coming in, and I encourage people to listen to the Learning Clinic on CKLU 96.7 FM, Monday afternoons. It'll be on most Monday afternoons when we get candidates in, and go to learningclinic.ca and take a look at the archived
Well,
videos.
well, thank you very much. I
Well, thank
really
you for coming.
appreciate the invitation to come in, and it was an opportunity, Bob, where we had a conversation where I thought that I could speak clearly on what I consider to be important issues and to express my feelings about certain things, and I appreciate that very
Okay.
much. Thank you.
And we heard John Rodriguez in person.
Well, hopefully, people will hear him too.
Yeah, time will tell. So thanks again, John.
Thank you.
We will definitely look forward to the next time you're in.
Good, thank you.
Shut off.